What's good? It's Fever. Today we're going to check back in with Dauntless and go over some of the major changes the game has had since I last touched on it here on the channel. I myself took a bit of a break from YouTube as I tend to do around the holidays, and I think going forward I will try to maybe do a monthly upkeep as long as the changes keep coming through for Dauntless. There have been quite a few changes to the game, so to get through them all, we're going to have to go a little bit broad strokes here, and we're going to start off with a new weapon type that was added to the game, the Warpike. This is part polearm, part laser cannon. It uses a stationary poke that can be comboed into like an E-Honda style flurry of pokes that is limited by your stamina. And then it has a heavy combo that is just a lot of twirling around, lots of hits that happen on all sides of you. The quirk or the mechanic attached to the Warpike is that as you attack, you build up your gauge, and you can convert that gauge into ammo, and the higher the gauge, the more powerful that piece of ammo is going to be, and this is denoted by pips. And you can use those to shoot a frickin' laser out of that pike that hits at ranged, though if you are hit, it will remove any gauge you've built up, but not your pips, so just don't get hit. It's no laser boomerang, but it's still pretty cool, with the potential for interrupting behemoths being done safely at range, and the damage type we'll touch on a little bit later. You definitely want one of these in your group. Alongside that, the other weapons did get some slight additions to their kits, things like the sword getting a lunge attack that chains from its roll, new or tighter animations for certain weapons. I tend to use the axe almost exclusively, and I haven't noticed any kit changes, and that's because the axe is nearly perfect. I just want a jumping attack that looks and feels good, but I do hear a resounding cry from players that the hammer is feeling especially great. Now, you've probably already seen it on screen already, but they have added damage numbers that can be toggled on and off. And generally, I don't like them in these types of games, but now, while the game is in flux and adding to itself, I think that they're almost necessary. Bundled with just the raw numbers are damage types. The color of the text now denotes different things. So if it's white, it just means a normal hit. Yellow means that you're hitting a breakable part. Blue is stagger damage, so, interrupting behemoths, or hammer players rejoice, hitting behemoths over the head to knock them out momentarily. There is also a visual cue as you get close to knocking them out, and then red text, which I believe is puncture or piercing damage, and this is primarily found from the new Warpike, and this acts to increase the damage taken from all sources on a specific part. And when you've done enough puncture or piercing damage to a part and applied this debuff, there's this really cool aether smoke visual cue that appears. While it is cool to be able to gauge damage and learn where your moves stand in relation to other moves, it is nice to see the big numbers when you switch to an element that a behemoth is weak to, and the lower numbers when it's not. But currently, I really like that if you don't see yellow text, you know that the part that you're hitting has already been broken, and this helps to dispel some of the dauntless bro science that does exist. That a part only drops if you break the foot of an Embermane twice during Berserk with a bladed weapon. It just kind of cleans that all up, and while the game is changing, if they do decide to add more double breaks or phase-specific breaks, it's an indicator without having to have read patch notes. I think if the game wasn't being actively developed and changed and remained fairly consistent, they could and should get by with just the visuals of gashes and scratches and a cut tail here and a broken tusk there. Those are just as clear. Maybe possibly tie in this info if they want to keep it into the game into like an ability or an aspect found somewhere else. For right now, not only do I like it, but I think it's needed. As for the parts you can break off of behemoths, there's been a slight change. After a break, a lootable item drops that you have to scoop up. On top of that, a lot of the lootable items on maps have gotten a significant quality of life change, mainly the herbs and the mushrooms. They're now gatherable without stopping, so you can do these drive-by gatherings. It cuts down gathering time by a huge amount. The whole crafting economy of what things take, how much, and what they make has also changed. With the addition of some new items, it hasn't had much of an impact in when, what, or why I gather, outside of now having a side option if I don't want to take a revive item. I think everything about the items, though, needs another pass. It needs further streamlining, it needs further fleshing out, a real look at if items do enough or too much, what they do, how often they're used, how they're sorted and arranged in the crafting menu. I play a lot of games where crafting is a focal point, and just Dauntless's item creation is really clumsy. Moving from items to gear and armor, since the last time I showed the game on my channel, there has been a huge amount of additional armor skins. You may remember a lot of placeholders. Most of those are gone. The Warpike still has a bunch of placeholders, unfortunately. I said that I don't like the graphics of the game, but I love the style, and some of these sets are killer, especially this rock one with the cape. There was also a very large balance adjustment and revamp of the weapons and armor with the arrival of the cell system, which is basically a gem system from other games. Items have slots, you get cells or gems to put into those slots to customize your loadout. Now this works really well in practice, especially with some weapon specific cells, like the Warpike has this one that increases the damage of your laser shots if they're done in succession, so it'll make you want to hoard up a bunch of shots before you start going. It kind of changes the way that you play, and you reap quite a bit of a benefit. They allow you as well though to enforce specific elements, damage types, regen, or charging up your lantern faster. You now can not only customize your gear easier, but to a playstyle or a weapon type, and also have more options than you ever had before. Aspects still exist. These are the hard-coded bonuses to specific gear, so set bonuses. If you're wearing all of the Shrike gear, you get a specific extra bonus on top of any of the cells that you put into it, but you lose some of those if you mix and match. Some of the more boring weapons have gotten additional abilities or passives, things like dealing more damage to enraged behemoths, more damage on the next swing after a roll. The Umbra Axe has this constant life drain, but then it has life steal. Some really cool stuff, and moving further into the direction of actually making meaningful choices when you set up your gear lists. And superficially, a lot of these abilities and passives have been given a visual flourish, so when they occur, something happens on the screen, which is a lot nicer. Now, the crafting of the weapons and armor has been changed a bit as well. It's much more uniform in the amount of upgrades. Everything now has 5 upgrades, and material-wise, a stronger focus on a new resource type that you gain linearly that is often the bottleneck, and this is Arcanite. So now when you go to the hunting board and you want to hunt a behemoth, you are given different areas to fight in, and the community has started calling these tier 1 through 5. The maps themselves are the same, they're just randomized, so you're either going to get a desert, snow, or a grass area, but then you have the option of a patrol, which starts a hunt with a random behemoth shown to be in that tier, or a pursuit where you can target a specific behemoth. The randomness of the behemoths and the biome of the island sometimes conflict or feel weird when you get like an ice behemoth like a Scrave or a Pangar, but you get them in the grasslands. I don't know if that's intended or not, but depending on the tier that the behemoth comes from, you get a tier appropriate version of Arcanite. And that is the bottleneck a lot of the time, as all of the upgrading or crafting of the weapons and armor, they require those and specific parts. So it usually means that after each hunt, you can upgrade something. So it gives you this incremental progression, which is kind of counter to Monster Hunter games, but I actually like quite a bit in Dauntless. In addition, I think Tier 5 or some of the hunts in Tier 5, so things like the Rizikiri or the Shroud, have a weekly limit of what you are allowed to kill. I might be making this up, I haven't gotten there myself because there was a wipe, but with the limited kills, that means that you're limited in the resources, so you're not going to be able to create all of the Shroud gear in the first week that you get to the Shroud. And I think that this may feel a little bit weird now, but will really start to shine when that system itself is more fleshed out. Once there are different and more behemoths with more varied armor, weapons, cells, and options. As it stands, it's kind of like a raid lockout, but it could also end up being a way to have you make decisions for your gearing. Maybe for 1 week only, there's like a Frost Cherog, and so if you do it, you might get a Frost scale. And this may work into creating a piece of Cherog gear that has different properties but still slots in with the set so you can get the aspect bonuses. And man, in like a realistic and functional method with the new cell system, they could have like a locked augment slot on the Gear 4 stuff like this, so the reward is like a frosted Cherog scale or a frosted Cherog cell, and it can only be placed in Cherog gear, so it adds frost resistance on top of it, or if it's a weapon, it adds frost type damage or a chill effect or something else, and that works to make use with this new and improved item customization system. And even if we don't, go a little bit overboard and just like make up things that probably aren't going to happen, they could easily just put a really powerful cell attached to it. It doesn't have to be thematic like a scale. It could just be, if you do this hunt, you get this one-of-a-kind cell. But the draw of something like that is you now get to choose where it goes, and that further pushes this personal customization even further. On top of the idea of incremental progression, you still have a quest chain which brings you through the tiers, but you now have a Slayer rank as well that grows as you kill stuff and is a threshold of unlocking things, so you now basically gain levels, and it makes the movement through the tiers a little bit more uniform. With the revamp to the hunting board, it also seems like it's much easier for them to just add additional hunt types to it, so I imagine we'll see the Crimson Charters or something like that come back. Currently, until January the 15th, we are in the Frostfall event, and the hunts attached to that just get plugged into the list. This is the second holiday Dauntless has had. They have some titles and I think some new emotes and fluff tied to them. The way they've done the holidays is to place a restriction or alteration to the hunts. For Frostfall, there is this frost debuff that appears that I'm not entirely sure what it does. I imagine it reduces stamina regeneration, but I have no idea. The UI and its readability, you know, even though it's continuing to improve, it still needs a lot of work. But in higher tiers, there is also these ice spikes that periodically shoot from the ground, and if they hit you, they freeze you in place, and if you're soloing a hunt, it basically means you're gonna die. Much more interesting than map mods in games that are like, enemies deal 10% more damage and have 30% more life. The Halloween-themed event that they had a while back had item restrictions, so you had an item level that you had to be underneath to start the hunts, and some of these hunts you were actually needing to go in under-geared for the behemoth, and it was pretty tough. And while I didn't make a video at that time to talk about it, I was in the middle of my YouTube break. People just don't believe me that I enjoy playing the game. For some reason, because there was no video, and because now it seems like I'm looking forward to Monster Hunter, which I am, it's got people all confused. How can this guy like 2 different games of the same genre? Doesn't he know he needs to choose one? Well, I've been playing Dauntless in my downtime with no video making motivation or incentive, and that's the footage that you're seeing in the background now. The maps and Ramsgate were also decorated with pumpkins for that, and during this Frostfall holiday, it's all decorated with snow. I think these holiday events were very understated. There were nothing incredible, but I can feel that they're experimenting with what they can do. I'm a little bit disappointed that there was no Shrike in a Santa hat. I'm going to be filing a formal complaint in that aspect. Also, when you queue up for a mission, you are put into a lobby kind of screen as your group fills up. Here you can see your hunt, you can change your gear, you can inspect your teammates' gear, and just kind of ready up. It's cute, it's there, it exists. I don't dislike it, but I think the Ramsgate and this loadout screen just need a lot of work. The pre-hunt experience needs an excuse to exist outside of just being able to see other people, and Ramsgate itself is one of the things I'm most interested in picking the brains of the people from Phoenix Labs. And moving on from that, I guess we should finish up with the big additions: 2 new behemoths. The Skarn, which is like the coolest thing ever. It's this rock lizard where his rocks are his armor and the way he attacks, but you can break the pieces of the rock, and then the part of his body that the rock was protecting is now going to be taking bonus damage. He has this Tasmanian devil spin that sucks you in, and this like bunker down shield mode. The animations look so good. The rock armor itself feels like it has this life of its own, and the armor and the weapons you can make from him are awesome. They're probably my favorite in the entire game. Just kudos to all the people involved in the creation of the Skarn, especially the art team, and especially the cape attached to the chest piece. The Karabak, the Karabak, is just another flying type enemy. Tons of bleed damage, fast slicing attacks. He brings with him a new Swarm, a bee debuff, as well as this invisibility shimmer that just messes with my eyes. Like, fighting this guy is tense because his attacks move him in such great distances, seemingly erratic, quick target changes, and most of the time what he does causes you to bleed, which limits your defensive options afterwards. So then when he continues to do this invisible, just goddamn, it's an awesome fight. It feels fair, but it feels crazy. And the helmet of the Karabak is awesome, and you see everybody using it. And one more thing here, the appointment of Twitch's Bless RNG himself. DYoshi has teamed up with Dauntless in an official capacity doing community-based stuff. I didn't ask the details. I know that it means less Ian time for me, as DYoshi, I believe, becomes the point of contact for me to Dauntless as well as other content creators, and I think the partner program with Dauntless, but you know what, I'm gonna be okay. Dyoshi is straight quality. In the content creator sphere, it's very small. What you say gets around. A lot of people know a lot of people, and while drama exists, you will only hear absolutely glowing things about him, and every interaction I've had with him, he just leaves such a great impression on you. He also streams on Twitch if you want to be able to get a one-on-one with somebody who knows much more about what's going on with Dauntless than most people. You guys know how highly I already think of the Phoenix Lab crew, and this just adds to it. Good people working with good people makes me happy. Those are the big changes. A lot of small stuff happened as well, but I think that will do for now. The video's already running a little bit long. I'll try to keep people up to date monthly from now on. I do have beta codes, but giving them away on YouTube is rough because most of people's accounts aren't messageable. If you're interested, send me a tweet or a message on Discord, and if anyone knows of a way that I can just kind of dump a bunch of codes into a bot or a program to make them easier to hand out, but not exploitably easy for people to just like get them all, please let me know. But that's going to go ahead and do it for me. Until next time, this is Fever. Peace.